everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kendra and today I'm going to be doing my October wrap-up. First I'm going to go through all of the stats and then I'll go through the books. So for the stats, I ended up reading a total of 9 books and that is a total of 2,859 pages. I read 8 physical books and 1 digital book. I read 4 of my own books, 3 library books, 1 e-arc, and 1 physical arc. I read 6 female authors and 3 male authors. I read 8 adult books and 1 middle grade. And then I read 6 thrillers, 2 horror, and 1 paranormal. And for my star ratings, I had 0 1 stars, 1 2 star, 1 3 star, 6 4 stars, and 1 5 star. And I want to go through my least favorite books up to my favorite book of the month. My least favorite book of the month is The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. I rated this 2 stars, and this is about Wren and her 2 dads. They are vacationing in a remote cabin, and one day Wren, the little girl, is out playing in the yard, and this stranger comes up to her and like starts having a conversation with her, and then like 3 more strangers, which is this other stranger's friends, come walking up the driveway, and they're like carrying these like really weird crazy weapons. And so Wren gets freaked out, she runs inside, and then they're trying to keep these people outside of their house. They don't want them coming in, but they're basically telling them, hey, we need your help with saving the world. So that's basically the gist of the story. But for me, I felt like the premise of this book was super juvenile. I felt like it was so boring. Like nothing happened from until the very end, which thankfully it was a short book so I could get through it pretty quickly. But yeah, this book just was not engaging at all. And then also what really irked me was it was told in different POVs, and when we were in Wren's POV, the little girl, she, the way that she was describing things was very adult. And for me, it was not very realistic. I just felt like it was just not done well, this book at all. So fortunately, I did not like this one. I'm not really sure if I will pick up another book by this author because I've really disliked this one so much, but I guess we will see. So the next book I want to talk about is The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware, and I gave this book 3 stars. And this book starts out as Rowan. She is actually in prison and she's being accused of murdering one of the children that she is nannying for. And it's told she's writing these letters to a defense attorney because she wants him to represent her in the upcoming case. So as she's writing to this lawyer, she's telling the whole entire story of actually what happened, and she ends up getting the job as a live-in nanny. And the house that she is going to be staying at is like a smart house where everything's digital and everything's used by your cell phone or computers or whatever the case may be. And she ends up getting the job pretty quickly when she does interview for this position, and things just start going really, really strange. So that's basically the premise of the story. For me, I felt like the very beginning of this book I really, really liked. I found it very creepy and I was super engaged in the story. I felt like it was very thrilling. But for me, reading a thriller, I need twist in the book, and the first twist didn't happen until almost 70 pages from the end, and I just did not like that at all. And the very last twist of the last revealed twist, I absolutely hated how it was done. So unfortunately, I Felt like this was more like a mediocre type of thriller, and yeah, so I ended up giving it 3 stars. The next book I have is The Dead Girls Club by Damian Angelica Walters. I gave this book 4 stars, and I received a physical ARC from Crooked Lane Books, and this book doesn't come out until December 10th of 2019. This is about Heather and Becca. They're really good friends, and they start this group when they were younger, and basically they just talk about like serial killers and like urban type imaginary creatures. And the one thing that they really were interested in was this spirit. It was like a witch spirit, and she was called the Red Lady. And they end up doing like seances and all this crazy stuff when they're younger. As they're getting more involved in this Red Lady, really crazy things start happening, and Becca ends up getting killed. Well, then like 30 years later, Heather, she never told anyone about Becca, like what happened or anything, but all of a sudden in the mail, she ends up getting Becca's necklace sent to her. So now she feels like somebody knows what happens. I really like this book, and I like how the book was told, because it was told in like when they were younger, and then when they were like older, or when she was older, Heather. And I liked when they were younger. I liked those chapters better because I was really invested in the story of the Red Lady. For me, it really reminded me of like Bloody Mary, and I found that part of the story very, very fascinating. And I did like when like the parts where Heather was older and she's trying to figure out who was sending her these things, and who knows what happened when she was younger. And I felt like I was actually really creeped out most of this book, so I really liked that part, and I am glad I read it in October because I felt like it was a perfect October book. But the ending I felt like needed to be a little bit stronger. I think that's why I docked it a star, but I think maybe I read so many thrillers that I want that last like huge twist at the end, whereas when you read a horror book, there really isn't that type of final twist. So I think that's what I really want in a horror book, but I guess for me, I just like thriller books better. But I love the creepy aspect. I thought it was a good book, and yeah, I'm glad I read it in October. The next book I'm going to talk about is The Passengers by John Mars, and I also gave this book 4 stars. This is about 8 people. They are getting in their self-driving cars for the day, and all of a sudden a animated hacker type person comes over their speaker in their car saying they have 2.5 hours until they collide into the other car, and only one person survives. And while this is going on, this whole entire thing is being broadcasted live for the whole entire world to see, and everyone's like voting on who should live and who should die, and you end up getting like all the backstories of the different people that are in the cars, and then you find out that some of them have some really big secrets. For me, I found the first 2/3 of this book absolutely amazing. I loved how engaging and thrilling and gripping it was. I just loved it. I love learning all about the different people and their different backstories and all their secrets. And then you get to the last third of like the final of like what actually happened, of why this is like happening. And it was just too long of an explanation. Like, it just kept going on and on and on and on. And I just did not like that at all. And it really stinks because I felt like if there was, they just gave like a quick, this is what happened and that's it, I felt like this book would have been a easy 5-star. But however, I didn't like the ending, so that kind of brought down the rating for me. So I do want to check out more of this author's books. So I think, like, I found his writing very, very engaging. So, and I like how it's done. So maybe I will check out another book by this author. The next book I have is Tunnel of Bones by Victoria Schwab. And this is a second book in a series. I believe the series is called Cassidy Blake. This is a middle grade paranormal book, and this is about, well, the first book is about Cassidy, the main character. Her parents are ghost hunters for like a reality TV show, and they like go to different cities and they investigate like the different haunted places and attractions and whatever. So the first book was set in Scotland, and then this book was set in Paris. And for this particular book, they were investigating the underground catacombs in Paris. And Cass is a ghost hunter, so she can go to the other side of like where the ghost spirits are, and she ends up getting involved with a poltergeist. So that becomes super scary, but for me, I really loved how this book was set in Paris, and I found the underground catacombs super creepy and scary, so I really like that, and I like books about ghosts, so I loved like the poltergeist type of aspect in this book, so I really, really like that. And yeah, I really like this book, so I definitely will be checking out the next book in the series, which I believe will come out next year. And yeah, I would recommend this book if you like middle grade and you like a ghost story. The next book I have is The Secret She Keeps by Michael Robotham, and this is about a woman, Agatha. She works as a part-time at a supermarket, and she tries to befriend this woman named Meg, because she thinks that she has like the perfect life, the perfect husband, the perfect children, and she just wants to be friends with her. And Meg's life actually isn't as perfect as everyone thinks, but Agatha really wants to befriend her, and as they both start to get to know each other, they realize that they are both pregnant and they're due at very similar times. So I think that really helps them become more friends, and they both have secrets that no one knows about. And this was actually our buddy read for Thriller Talks After Dark, and we ended up having a live show and we talked about this book, but this was a great book to talk about. There's a lot going on in this book, and it's a type of book where a twist literally starts at the very beginning of this book and goes all the way until the end, which I love thrillers like that because it literally keeps you on the edge of your seat the whole entire time. But my only thing about this book is I actually guessed the twist, so that's kind of a bummer, but overall I really like this book, and I'm really glad that we ended up picking this one to read together. The next book I want to talk about is Hunting Annabel by Wendy Hurd, and I also gave this one 4 stars. And this is about Sean. He is released from a psychiatric mental hospital, and he is determined to stay away from killing until he meets Annabel. When he meets Annabel, he is instantly attracted to her, really likes her, and Annabel is everything that he wants. And then one day while they're hanging out, she ends up getting kidnapped right in front of him. So he ends up telling the police, and because of his background, the police think that he is actually involved in the whole entire kidnapping. So yeah, this book was probably one of the best psychological thrillers that I have read in a really long time. And the twists in this book were so unpredictable that I had no idea what they were. And the ending was crazy, like so good. So I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a good psychological thriller. The next book I want to talk about is The Perfect Son by Lauren North. and I gave this book also 4 stars. And this is about a woman, Tess. She, at the very beginning of the book, she wakes up and she realizes that she has been stabbed and her son is missing. So she starts freaking out because she doesn't know where her son is. And several months prior, her husband ends up getting killed in a plane crash, and her mom ends up hiring a grief counselor for her, and they end up becoming pretty close. And then there's also her brother-in-law. He keeps coming over to her house demanding money that supposedly her husband owes him. So as it goes on, you start thinking that her brother-in-law and the grief counselor are kind of in on something. So yeah, so that's basically what this book is about. It's hard to talk about it without giving any spoilers, but I loved this book. Like, I could not put it down. It was so engaging, so good. I loved how it was like told in like dual timelines. So it was like told from when she was like before she was stabbed and then like after she was stabbed. So I really liked that part of this book. But yeah, I think the only reason why I didn't give this one 5 stars is because I also guessed the twist in this book, so that kind of stinks. But I don't know if I've like seen that twist before and that's why I guessed it. I don't know, but anyways, I really enjoyed this one, and I highly recommend this one if you are looking for a domestic thriller. And the last book, and also my favorite book of the month, is The Wives by Taryn Fisher, and I gave this book 5 stars. And I read this as a e-arc, and this book comes out December 30th of this year, so next month. And this is about a woman. She's married to this man who also has 2 other wives, and she actually knows about these other wives, but she doesn't, like, she has never interacted with them or anything. So one day when she's, I don't know, doing laundry or something, she ends up finding like a receipt in her husband's pants pocket, and she starts getting curious about this woman. So she tries to go meet this woman. They end up talking at like a coffee shop or whatever, and she ends up seeing like bruises on this woman's hand, and then she starts questioning like, who am I actually married to? Like, why is there bruises on her but he doesn't do those things to me? So yeah, don't want to give anything else away because yeah, this book was a total mind F. Like, not even kidding. It was so freaking good. Yeah, I don't even know what else to say about it, that I was completely, absolutely shocked about the whole thing. Like, it literally keeps you guessing until the very end. Like, you think of one thing and then you think of another, and you're like, oh no, wait, I think maybe the other one again. Like, so dang good. Oh my gosh. Yeah, this needs to be on everyone's radar for next month to read. So yes, highly recommend this book. So good. Well, that is the 9 books that I read in October. Did you read any of these books? Any of these books sound interesting to you? Let me know in the comments, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!